Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Anna Joy. I am going to introduce myself, and then I have some things I thought about that I wanted to talk about and share, some of which might be old news, some which are always good to repeat and might spark new thoughts, hopefully, and we will see how it goes. But I have been with Cuddlist for 2.5 years. I've been cuddling since early 2015, and it's been a huge joy and delight in my life. It has at times been more regular than others, but there's always been a trickle of clients I'm seeing and things I'm doing around it. I really enjoy having cuddle sessions with friends and groups of friends, or sometimes even couples, like platonic couples cuddles with myself. And I'm in a very touch-positive community in Seattle, and I noticed that I'm happier when I have more touch in my life. And most recently, I watched a Teal Swan video. I'm not necessarily saying she's my favorite, but I did like what she said, something she said about touch being something that our significant others can't fulfill the needs that we're used to having, that we have, like in childhood, in an ideal childhood, we'd get, if we like touch, if we happen to be that kind of person, kids get a lot more than adults do. We have our parents who might stroke our hand as we're going to sleep or give us back scratches and give us hugs on the way in and out the door, and we can cuddle up to, and they just love it. Again, in an ideal world, we might walk down the street holding hands with our best friends and play like duck, duck, goose on the playground with kids and other physically interactive games, and then just have the connection of a grandparent, or there's more touch available, and that's really a healthy amount of touch for people who thrive on touch. So I'm currently thinking about how to bring more physical contact, not just through my sessions or through cuddle parties, but into my life, and to be a more brave and clear communicator out, even at work, around hugs and offering them and asking for them when I need them. And that sounds edgy and scary and fun. But the topic that I gave Madeline was holding strong boundaries gently. And I'll just share some of my thoughts. A lot of folks, when I mention what I do, somehow they don't understand that it's pretty similar to being a female massage therapist or a female therapist, or anyone who sees clients individually. And they freak out a little, and they're like, what? Like, how do you hold your boundaries? How do you keep people from pawing you, or some version of that? And for me, the single trick of holding my boundaries is to hold my boundaries. And that's kind of my zinger answer when people go off into question land about that. I say, it's not difficult to hold that kind of boundary, because I've honored all of these boundaries up until that point. There's such an incredibly small chance of anything like that happening now. And so this is in the training and the concept of the soft and hard boundaries. I'm really excited to hear where everyone is at with the training and beyond. But the soft boundaries being things that you're constantly up for negotiation, but you kind of know you have a limit there and want to stay aware of it. And then hard boundaries. So soft boundary for me might be, I don't mind my arm being rubbed, but I don't want it to be petted over and over again. I get kind of sensitive and uncomfortable if someone is petting the same arm, which happens a lot when they get activated and are really thinking and talking a lot. That's a soft boundary, though. It's not a never. And then the hard boundary, and this is probably all very familiar, but the hard boundary being something like, I don't ever want saliva from another person during a session on my body, and I don't want to have their lips on me anywhere either. And I will make a comment about that beforehand if needed, and then during the session it will be really clear, if that would come up. I say, that's a boundary. I'm not comfortable with that. So that's kind of my core point, is just that one of the best ways to hold boundaries is by holding your boundaries, and that the more large boundary crossings can often be preceded by smaller boundary crossings being permitted. If we hold them early on, we're in a much safer zone, much more likely. And I've noticed this happening with clients who I even give just a little bit, and I have had to learn it repeatedly, but usually not in the same way twice. But if I give just a little bit on time with someone and say, yeah, I'll go to 9:15 or 9:30 when I really am only comfortable concluding my sessions at 9 p.m. at the latest, usually something will happen that will make me think, wow, I wish that hadn't happened. And it's not something egregious. It's just something small that feels slightly violating. And then I think, what did I do that let the container loosen to a degree I was uncomfortable with earlier that kind of paved the way for this to happen? And then I try not to do that again next time. There's always some correlation, and I think it's so interesting. And boundaries are around what the other person can and can't do to me, but it's also my boundaries with myself, what I'm committing to and my integrity that I know works well for me, and then just sticking with that. So I think that it's a constant awareness both in and outside of sessions. And if Cuddlist said any part of this was a lifestyle, it's probably the concept of knowing what you're good with and what you're not, and not just being okay on the spectrum of consent. If I were in person, I would draw a line and draw out the spectrum. On the far left side is your hell no. Next to that is tolerating and enduring, and that's all not what happens in sessions and hopefully in life. And then to the right of that is the willing category, and then the hell yes category, where it's ideal to live. And I wanted to also talk about the idea that it's never too late to express a boundary. And I had this happen at a party. I let someone cross a boundary, and then the next day they asked me a question related to it. And I said, oh, yeah, actually, I was uncomfortable with that. And they said this beautiful thing that really resonated with me, that, you know, it's not too late to say all the words you wish you had said last night to me. And then I think I left a voicemail or a voice text and said, yeah, so last night, after the fact, when you, I don't remember what happened, but when you cuddled me, I actually didn't want to. I wanted to say no, and I wish that I hadn't. And just that when you're with the right people, maybe and maybe not the right thing in a session, with the right people, you can kind of do a healing work that will strengthen the boundaries even more, to let them be more gentle when you express them, and go back after the fact and kind of give yourself that. And the last thing I wanted to say about that is that a lot of people in doing cuddling work are interested in trauma or have experienced trauma or are studying it. And a lot of that concept from shock trauma, from somatic experiencing, there's the completing of that cycle by where you didn't hold the boundary. If you're on a bike and you needed to raise your hand to protect your head, you have this twitch that may be very subtle, but until you actually slowly go through that motion and do put that boundary in place, when you do that, then the tension can unwind and release, and your body says, okay, I did my job, I held my space in the world, and I can go back to functioning normally, I can stop twitching.